What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, tomorrow, Stellar Blade releases, and yesterday, reviews went live after the embargo lifted, and they caused quite the conversation online. I figured we would go over some of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a surprise update for Nintendo Switch Online, adding in a few, we'll say, lesser-known titles to the service, and then we have some big-time sales that are now live for the Xbox and PlayStation, with what we're looking at as thousands of games that are marked down pretty heavily. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Watch Dogs. Well, the Watch Dogs franchise, of course, with Ubisoft, that hasn't been having the best time recently, with Watch Dogs Legion seemingly not living up to expectations, or at least what was described and really promised by Ubisoft. In fact, we can see this posted up by Insider Gaming, where they say in a new post on Twitter, known leaker Jonathan with a zero has claimed that they believe the Watch Dogs series is dead and buried, possibly due to the poor performance of Watch Dogs Legion. And I think back to when Watch Dogs was first shown, that infamous E3 video, and ever since then, it's always been Watch Dogs trying to live up to this vision that it really painted for us then, and it's never gotten there. Even with Legion, they sort of went over the idea of all these different characters being added into your crew, and they have different personality, and, well, they did have different stats and attributes, that kind of thing. It didn't really feel like what they were trying to describe as this living world with incredibly unique people to find. It just kind of still felt like Watch Dogs, I guess. So, yet I wouldn't be shocked if it is quote unquote dead and buried, at least until maybe they can figure out something new for the franchise, and based on how long these dev cycles take, it's probably gonna be quite a while before we ever see it resurrected, if at all. Also, we have a really fun pre-order bonus that's now been revealed for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door on the Switch, and we can see this is posted up by GameStop Canada specifically. Receive a free slipcover when you pre-order the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door game for the Nintendo Switch system. And yes, playing into the nostalgia with the GameCube box art slipcover, that is awesome. Here's the issue. It appears, at least at the time of this recording, it is exclusive to Canada with GameStop, and I don't mind if it's just with GameStop. You can go in, you can get a pre-order in, get a physical copy of it, and you get the slipcover. Great. But it's just in Canada now? So this could very well be revealed for other regions, so we'll have to keep an eye out for it, but I do like the idea of getting a slipcover like this. Obviously, it's paying homage to the original release, and that's the whole point of this, it being a remake, seemingly, on the current platform for people who just didn't play it on the GameCube, and unless you're going to go through emulation, I've said it before, and I'll say it many times, there are a lot of people who just don't want to deal with all that, figuring out all the settings and installs, that sort of thing with Dolphin is just not something they feel like dealing with, so you buy the remake here, and actually, it's technically half the price, really, of what the original cost for the GameCube, so it'd be fun to get a slipcover like that, and I hope that we hear from GameStop at some point that this is something that will be available in all other regions too, so I'll keep an eye on that one. Oh, and we did get a release date for that Wizardry remake. This is posted up over on Gematsu, where they say the Wizardry Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, it's a remake by Digital Eclipse, will leave early access and launch officially for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That's through Steam and GOG, so pretty cool there if you want like that DRM free download. It's on May 23rd, and I'll admit this is a game that was even before my time. It came out in 1981 on the Apple II, and it's like the grandfather of party-based RPGs, dungeon crawlers, but they did redo the visuals, the animations. They also made it a bit more controller-friendly with the interface and shortcuts, and it's been fully localized into English, Japanese, French, Spanish, Italian, and German. So really cool stuff there. I believe it's $29.99. Again, a classic series there being kind of remade and put on modern platforms, so definitely worth checking out if you're someone who remembers Wizardry from back in the 80s. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Stellar Blade, which I am very excited to pick up tomorrow and start playing. I think MVG and I are going to play through the game and then have another discussion video around what we thought of the title, as well as I guess some of the plot details and the story, so keep an eye out for that one over on the Spawncast network. However, we did have reviews go live, and at the time of this recording, we have just over 100 reviews, which we can see over on Metacritic, currently coming in at the score of an 82. I guessed 85, so I was off by a couple of points, but either way, on 110 critic reviews, this is probably where it's going to be sitting going forward with that 82. And if we take a look at some of the reviews here, for example, on one end, we have Game Spew, with a 100, saying more than just a Souls-like with a protagonist to serve as eye candy, Stellar Blade has far surpassed our expectations, offering varied gameplay, outstanding visuals, a sublime soundtrack, and an engaging story. It's a must-play for action game fans. With the demo, I will say the music definitely stood out for many of us when we talked about it on the podcast, and then the platforming stuff, not so much. In fact, that was something that was pointed out in many of these reviews as more of a negative. But we also have Silicon Era here, giving it a 90, saying, thankfully Stellar Blade was worth the wait, as it's one of the best action RPGs released since Nier Automata. So that's high praise there. On the other end of the spectrum, we do have Video Gamer, gave it a 60, saying, if you take just the combat and the music from Stellar Blade, you've got a fantastic game. Sadly, this is not the whole package, so reviews were kind of scattered, but obviously it skewed more towards the positive than the negative. It's coming in at an 82, which is a good score. Even IGN, they give it a 7, and they seem to get a lot of pushback for that one, but I think just review scales in general are just completely, just throw them out the window now. You know, like a 7 out of 10 is technically considered good, but unless it's like a 9 or up, people just assume it's terrible now. I will say, Digital Foundry also did their usual technical analysis of the game, and it looks like Shift Up did a very, very good job when it comes to optimization on the performance side. So, of course, you pick performance mode, and you're expecting a solid frame rate, especially with an action game like this. And it looks like they've achieved that. In fact, it was basically like locked to 60 frames per second, I'd say like 90% of the time, especially even in like some of the heavier action sequences. And that's what I was looking for. The visuals aside, I mean, when things are really getting wild on screen with trying to do counters and dodges, you're not really going to care if it has to drop the resolution. I would prefer that 60 frames per second be held as much as possible. The only thing around this game, as I'm heading into its release and picking it up and starting to play it, I've noticed that a lot of the conversation on social media has just been completely poisoned at this point, and it's not even really talk about the game itself. It's talking about like the main characters, people fighting over all kinds of other stuff, so I'll try something different when I get it and play it. I'll talk about the game. We'll see how that goes. Next up, let's talk about a surprising update for Nintendo Switch Online, adding in a couple of lesser-known titles for the service. In fact, one of them I've never played. And what's interesting about this is it's another situation where Nintendo didn't announce their release ahead of time. They just announced it and boom, it's just available in the Nintendo 64 application. So we can see this is posted up over on their YouTube channel for Nintendo. And this is the April 2024 game updates for NSO. They say today, 2 racing games originally released on the Nintendo 64 system are bringing full throttle thrills to players with a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack membership. Careen around roller coaster racetracks in Extreme G and bounce up, up, and away in the offbeat Iggy's Wreckin' Balls, a game when these titles join Nintendo 64 Switch Online library that is available right now. Okay, so I have played Extreme G. In fact, back in the day, you would be able to rent a Nintendo 64 system, extra controllers if you needed them, which you're probably renting it maybe for a party or a get-together, which is what we would do, typically over like a weekend if it was someone's birthday party, or the parents were having their friends over and they have kids and they're like, let's get them a system, fine. So we did rent a Nintendo 64 many times before I eventually owned one. And I remember one weekend we rented Extreme G, and it was actually pretty fun. It was kind of on a whim. It's like, well, we haven't tried this before. Let's see what happens, because you get 3 games with it. Iggy's Wreckin' Balls is a game I have never played, but it sounds absolutely wild and off the wall. So I kind of want to try it just for that. And I know these aren't games that people are going to look at and say, oh, this is incredible stuff, right? Like, I'm still waiting for Diddy Kong Racing to show up. I think that'd be an awesome announcement. But at the same time, we have a lot of games now in NSO. I don't mind getting these off the wall titles that maybe I haven't even played before, like Iggy's Wrecking Balls just to try it out and see exactly what was going on apparently with this game back in the 90s on the N64. And I guess in the sense of Extreme G, you can go online and play against other people, some of your friends, invite them in and relive the days of renting the Nintendo 64 over the weekend. I don't know if I really do that, but I will fire it back up at least for a little bit just to check it out and see if it still holds up. I'm assuming it probably won't, but it'll be fun, and it's part of the subscription service that I already have. So while I would like to see some bigger, more exciting titles, I also don't mind the offshoot stuff just to try to maybe shake things up a bit. Next up, we have a bunch of sales that are now live for PlayStation and for Xbox. So what I think we're going to do is separate this into two sections, and we'll start with the PlayStation. This is their May saving sale that is currently ongoing, and what we'll do here is just sort of scroll through the pages like we usually do. Since I looked full game-wise, there's 59 pages of sales, so there is a lot of stuff that's been marked down here, and I did pick out some of the highlights or just things that I thought would be kind of cool to show off here. Now, this sale does run until May 8th, so you have a couple of weeks here to go through and pick things out. Final Fantasy 16 is probably one of the highlights that is 50% off. Remember, we do have Rising Tide DLC that just released, so probably worth picking it up now at that price, since that and the DLC, I believe, would still be less than the full price $70 that we spent on it last year. Then we have Hi-Fi Rush, that's 30% off. The Crew Motorfest, 50% off. Avatar, 40% off. Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, awesome game, it's 40% off here. We have some Resident Evil games that are marked down. Village is 60% off, 3 75% off, and 2 is 75% off. Dead Island 2, that one's 50% off. Pentiment, 33% off. Dark Forces Remastered, 30% off. Definitely worth picking this one up and playing through it so you can get to know Kyle Katarn and be ready just in case they decide to do a remaster for Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, as that is an awesome, awesome game. We have Unravel 2, 75% off. Hitman HD Enhanced Collection, that one's 80% off, in case you want to go back to some of the now really more classic, I guess, Hitman games. Nier Automata is 60% off. Ace Combat 7, 84% off. Atlas Fallen is 30% off. Metro Exodus Gold Edition, 85% off. Absolutely ridiculous for a game of that quality. Octopath Traveler 2, 40% off. Tony Pro Skater 1 and 2, 60% off. Bayonetta, 75% off. Tactics Ogre Reborn, another awesome title here, 50% off. And then Soul Hackers 2, 70% off. Next up, we'll move over to the Xbox sale, which again, we'll scroll through that here. This is their Golden Week sale. It ends May 6th, like about 2 weeks or so to go through the game, see if there's anything you want. Street Fighter 6 is 33% off here. Monster Hunter Rise, 75% off. We have both Nier Automata, that's 60% off, and Nier Replicant, 60% off. Dead Rising 3 is 70% off. Dead Rising 4, 75% off. Crisis Core Reunion, Final Fantasy 7, 50% off. All right, here's the fun part about the Xbox sales, is there is a lot when it comes to backwards compatibility, and I will throw those in. For example, Azura's Wrath, that is backwards compatible, by the way. People still don't really know this. 80% off. That's a fun title to pick up and check out. Definitely a very unique one, I'll say. Resident Evil Village, 60% off. Resident Evil Code Veronica X, again, backwards compatible, 80% off. And then we have a bunch of Lost Planet games here. Lost Planet 1, 2, 3, each one of them 80% off. I have not played Lost Planet 1 in forever. I might pick that one up and just kind of put it in the backlog again for later on at some point. I kind of want to see how that one's aged. Then we have Chrono Cross, 50% off. DuckTales Remastered, 75% off there. Star Ocean, The Divine Force at 50% off. Bayonetta and Vanquish, that's a collection of them, 70% off. We have Shenmue 1 and 2, 85% off. The game's like less than $5 for the two. That's pretty good for a classic there. And then, hey, just in case you missed it and you wanted to finally add it to your library, Balan Wonderworld is 85% off. And as I mentioned, these sales for PlayStation and Xbox are ongoing for the next couple of weeks. So if you get a chance to look through them, of course, leave some suggestions down in the comments for which games people should check out and which sales they should take advantage of. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, the Stellar Blade reviews are in, are you picking the game up? Okay, 21% say yes, getting it ASAP. 39% say later if there is a good sale. And then 40% just say no, I'm not interested. So, okay, 60% of people say that they are interested in Stellar Blade in some way. And, one of the big things that I'd like to hear, this was, I think, from Digital Foundry, John Linneman mentioned that it has sort of this essence of like the PS2 era somewhat, sort of that action style game. And when I think back on that, I think of like Devil May Cry, just as an example. So I'm looking forward to the experience for Stellar Blade. I know the discussion's been about all kinds of other stuff with it, but really I just want to jump in after the demo and really get to learn some of that combat a bit more and go through the different progression trees and stuff. There's a lot there when it comes to content and sort of building out your character. So I am excited to check it out tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Mike, who says FTC banning non-compete clauses will help a lot of people working in the tech industry. Yeah, so news broke the other day that the FTC was basically just banning non-compete clauses completely. I think there's some kind of grace period they're going to go through so many months before it's like official, but it seems like it would work retroactively as well. So anyone under the conditions of a non-compete clause will just be freed from it at that time. They're already being challenged by lawyers and then the courts and stuff, but let's just say it holds. You're right. That'd be big for the tech industries, just any industry at all, because the non-compete clause is one of the most frustrating things in existence now, especially in the workforce where you leave one job and you're under this clause that says you can't go and work anywhere else in the industry for competitors, year, 2 year, whatever apparently the corporations say where you worked at. It's really frustrating and annoying because it also does stifle innovation completely, because then you just kind of sit around and wait, or you leave the industry. So yeah, this would only be good for workers and really the little guy then. And of course, not good for the corporations who want to keep those non-compete clauses. So at this point, yeah, I hope the FTC is able to ban them completely, because I think it would just be good for industries pretty much all across the US. And then we'll go to a comment from the members video. You can see that here. That's from Darktype. Says, if the next Xbox is called the XXX gaming is done, Microsoft wouldn't bounce back from that. I've thought about what they would call their next system, because they're locked into this Xbox Series thing, and eventually they would run out of letters that make sense. Like their handheld system, it makes sense that you would go Xbox Series H. But what if they got to a point where their console is just called Xbox? Like, they went Xbox One from 360. That was weird. Okay, Xbox Series, that's kind of weird too. If they are going to eventually just eliminate generations, and I think that is Microsoft's goal next, is to just be done with them, because let's face it, these generational leaps are becoming so small now in terms of the gap between the PS4 Pro and the PS5 and there's PS5. How big of a jump do you think it's really going to be from PS5 Pro to PS6? Probably not much. We're going from 4K to more 4K or maybe 8K. Either way, I do wonder if Microsoft just calls it Xbox and they just have different models underneath of that, and that's kind of it. They're already sort of there with Xbox Series, but really just get to the position where that's it. It's just Xbox, and that's all you have to worry about when it comes to branding. But we'll see, because that is going to be a very interesting thing for them to navigate when it comes to that generational jump, what they're kind of describing it as, and then how exactly they're going to brand it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today were Stellar Blade reviews that went up yesterday. How do you feel about the game? Are you picking it up tomorrow? And then also, what about the Nintendo Switch Online update with 2 lesser-known Nintendo 64 games going in? Let me know if you had played either of those before this announcement. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.